As a nonprofit organization, you are committed to protecting and stewarding your financial resources well. However, what do you do when you only have one finance staff member? Well, the answer lies in implementing the checks and balances or the internal controls that will help you minimize risk and ensure your financial sustainability. This is the first of a 5-part series where I'll give you some elements that you can break down and make actionable for your nonprofit. Hi, I'm Teresa Clark, and I'm a CPA with over 25 years of experience serving 501c3 nonprofits. I've worked inside the organization as a CFO, and I've worked external as an independent auditor of nonprofits. And so my mission is to help nonprofit organizations answer the money questions so they can achieve their financial strength and accomplish their mission. You can think of me as a strategic partner to help you master the money. For more resources, you can visit my website at teresaclark.com. The separation of duties refers to the practice of dividing the responsibility among different individuals to minimize the risk of mistakes and misconduct. So even when you just have one staff member in finance, you actually can separate the duties. Today, I'm going to give you some examples that you can consider. The first one is you should separate the processes for approval and recording of finances. So for example, the staff member that is recording the finances in the accounting software should not sign the checks or approve the ACH payments from the organization. So I know it's convenient or inconvenient to have to wait for someone to sign a check or to go online and approve a payment batch. But it really is critical for the safeguarding of your finances, probably one of the number one and most important things. So who can do that? Well, a board member, an executive director, maybe, as long as they're not initiating their own payments, they're just signing and they're being approved by the finance person. Another example, maybe the treasurer or another trusted volunteer, maybe a former board member. So the same process needs to exist when you make payments online. So this is typically called ACH payments through your bank. And every bank I've ever worked with will allow for a 2-step process. So it looks very much like preparing a check or uploading a batch for payment. And then the second step, signing a check or approving the batch for payment. All right, so the next thing, number 2, is you want to separate the approvals for payments to go out. So in this case, let's just say you have a staff member who is handling finances. They should not be the one approving payments. An example would be if you have a program manager or a department head that is initiating an expense. Well, you want to have, or the expenses in their department, you want to have them review their invoices and review those expense reports before handing them over to the finance member. Or in the case of a program head, maybe the executive director has to approve theirs before handing them over for payment from the finance person. And this arrangement really helps you to ensure that one person isn't controlling all aspects of the financial process. And that is how you reduce the risk of fraud. Number 3, you want to separate data entry and reconciliation. Again, if you only have one finance staff person, they should not be doing both of these things. So you want to separate it where the finance person is maybe entering and recording the transactions in the software, but another member, again, a board member or a trusted volunteer, is actually reconciling the bank account. This is a process that really helps to ensure that the transactions are accurate and complete, and really is important to have that separate person reviewing that. Okay, number 4, you want to strengthen your revenue receipt and recording process. This can vary very greatly inside of a nonprofit. And so I'll give you a couple of examples. It really depends on your primary funding source. Let's just say that you have a system, though, where you receive a lot of cash. Well, my greatest recommendation is it's worth the processing fees to ensure all transactions make it to the bank. So I'd say try to move away from cash if you can. But if you can't, then you need to put in place a receipting system and a process that reconciles all receipts are included in a deposit. So it separates those two things. Next is, if you're a donation-driven nonprofit, you want to make sure that all gifts are secured when they come in. they come in the mail often, then you want two people opening the mail and immediately dropping those checks into a secure place that later requires the presence of two people to count those checks. And I would recommend using a count sheet. And then after that count sheet is completed, it's signed off on by the counters. And then when the bank verification deposit slip comes back, it's reviewed by a third party to ensure all the money made it to the bank. Like I said, very unique situations depending on the kind of revenue your nonprofit faces and experiences, but there's a couple of examples. And number 5 is that sometimes outsourcing can be helpful in these processes. So when you have limited staff, sometimes you can outsource the accounting or bookkeeping services to a firm that will, you want to find one that's cost effective, but would be able to service sort of that checks and balances. Now, the limitation is always that they don't know your nonprofit so intimately. They don't know everything you're doing, so they might not see something that feels unusual. But at least if you have processes in place about things that have to be reviewed and approved, they can help carry those functions out. So in conclusion, you know that protecting your nonprofit from fraud and the misuse of finances is critical. And it's so challenging when you're a small nonprofit. So I hope this lesson helped you to remove some of the mystery and give you some actionable steps that you can take. Like I said, this is part 1 of a 5-part series, and I want to help you put some things in place if you have a small staff. And so stay tuned wherever you're seeing this, come back for some more. And as a resource, I want to let you know that if you're looking to assess the fraud risk in your organization, I've designed a 12 key question test that I call the fraud factor assessment, and you can find that on my website. So if you'll go to my website and click services and then fraud risk assessment, it'll take you there. It's an interactive quiz and will give you some videos and some help from me at the very end. Or you can click the link where you're watching this.